Welcome back to Myths, Monsters, and Mullets. I am your host, John Methencamp. If you have a paranormal encounter you'd like to share, you can email me at mythsandmullets@gmail.com. And when I say paranormal, I mean UFOs, Bigfoot, ghosts, maybe you saw the Loch Ness Monster. Anything weird, I want to hear it. Email me, mythsandmullets@gmail.com. Once again, I'd like to thank everybody for all the support you've been giving me over the last couple months. If you haven't yet, make sure you're hitting that subscribe button. Get notifications, like, share, comment, tell a friend about the show, because that's the best way we can grow. Make sure you're checking out the descriptions on all my episodes. Down below, you'll find a list of all my favorite podcasts. I like them. I think you will too. Make sure you're giving them a follow and subscribe to their channels as well. Before the episode starts, I'd like to apologize to the Bigfoot Finders. That's the guests that are on the show tonight. I've had this episode done since April 29th, and I was having some issues with the audio just on my end, and it took me quite a while to get it cleaned up to even the point you're going to hear tonight. Sounds like I called into my own show, but I didn't want to have to bring them back on to re-record just because of an issue on my end. So RD and Brenda, I do apologize for my audio. You guys sound good. So with that, let's start the show.
Out in the woods, shadows creep slow. Footprints deep where no man should go. Cold winds howl through hollers and brooks. Whispers of Bigfoot in the way it looks. Myths, monsters, and bullets in the night. Under a pale moon, strange glowing light. Truth out there like a blade it cuts. Myths, monsters, and bullets run amok.
Welcome back to Myths, Monsters, and Mullets. I am your host, John Methencamp. On today's show, we have the Bigfoot Finders. RD and Brenda, how are you today?
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having us on. My dear sweet husband, RD. I'm Brenda. This is the bitty. He's got a good start of the show.
Yeah, they tend to do that every once in a while.
Yes.
So you guys have a couple books. And we actually, I think we met on TikTok. I think that's where I came across you guys. But I checked out your website. I did see that you guys have a couple books. Why don't you tell us a little bit about those first?
Sure, man. Originally, we had written the first book by default. Our first book's called The Bigfoot Finders, and it tells how we get so many pictures of these creatures as well as other cryptids. 2.5 years ago when we started, we didn't think there was anything but Bigfoot. It took us about 2 weeks in the woods to find out that this is a very deep rabbit hole. We literally thought we would be in the woods for 5 years trying to get one photo, and we've got so many, it's really blown our mind. And I'm not talking about, some people show everything. They're showing B and C grade photos, and it's hard to get a perfect one because of what these creatures actually are, but anyhow, so the first book, The Bigfoot Finders, is more about our journey. The first two encounters I had in Middle Tennessee, and then Brenda and I getting together, falling madly in love, and learning how to do this. But it was almost by default. We're just out playing around in the woods. We'd seen some Scott Carpenter stuff, and we're like, I told her when we first met, I said, hey, we're gonna try to get a picture of a Bigfoot if you're cool with that, because I saw some growing up. She's like, let's do it, and I'm like, that's the girl for me. And so we literally thought it would never happen. And we learned a lot from Scott and his videos. It wound up that first day. We didn't know we had any photos till we got back. But the book is kind of the story of how we launched out, the experiences that got us started. And then, quite honestly, and this one is what blows most people's mind, John, is just simply how easy it is once you learn how to get out there and get some good photos of these creatures. It tells exactly how we do it step by step over and over. The first book's called The Bigfoot Finders. Second book we wrote was because the rabbit hole was much deeper than we thought. It's kind of like you can't put the genie back in the bottle. And so we're getting these pictures of Bigfoot, but in the same pictures are little people. They're dog man. There's all this other stuff in the same photos, letting us know, hey, these is sometimes a couple of times, several times we picked up these portals, these really square or really blocked off places. Some of them with light coming out of them around these cryptids with cryptid eyes peeking out and stuff. And you just can't, it wrecks your worldview when you begin to learn the truth. And so the second book is about it's called Beyond Bigfoot, Cryptids, Portals, and Multidimensional Beings. But it dives deeper into what these creatures really are. The fact that there's two sides to the argument. Some people say, hey, it's a natural creature. Some people say it's a supernatural creature. The truth is it's both. And so the people that say it's natural is not wrong, but the people that say it's supernatural aren't either, because it's both at different times. It's as natural as we are, or they actually, are multidimensional as well. I know we probably lost about half the audience there, but guarantee it, stick with us, you'll find out. But anyhow, the second book dives into and it's got a bunch of pictures. Both of them have a bunch of pictures. Everything can be found on our website, www.thebigfootfinders.com. That's www.thebigfootfinders.com. You can get our TikTok, follow us there. We have newsletters we send out, and of course, the best links to get the books on Amazon is just right there on our website, the Bigfoot Finders. So,
Yeah, and I will include all the links and the descriptions. So for everybody who's watching or listening, check down below. You'll find all these links. But let's get back to RD and Brenda. How did your journey start into Bigfoot?
That's a long story.
well,
It's back to the stories. It started with my dear sweet husband saw a couple when he was younger. Physically saw them, and he'll tell you that story if you'd like.
Absolutely.
now, so what my first encounter, I was either 12 or 13 on my grandfather's property, Rutherford County, Tennessee. and I don't want to, I'll dive as deep into it as you want to, but literally saw one at about 85, 90 yards, walk straight across the field in broad daylight right in front of me. It was a couple of things that stand out about that day. And, there's nothing on the internet. There's no way to process this. I knew what Bigfoot was. I'd seen In Search Of, I think, with Leonard Nimoy. But you just can't, your brain doesn't say, I'm looking at a Bigfoot. It tries to fit it into, and especially as a 13-year-old kid, you're thinking all these things. What are people going to think? And so you're trying to fit it into a box. So my first box was, my janitor at school was 7'3". He was huge. He was real skinny. He was in poor health. He was really, really tall. And I'm like, well, this could be a person because it's not much taller than my janitor. It was in all, but I thought it's in all brown. And as it kind of walks out from the side, from the thick brush. And the first thing I remember, John, was I almost thought that there was like something in my eye because it was almost blurry in this little area of the field. And I thought, I remember just thinking this, my eye was like I was looking through an intense heat, or it was wavy, kind of like you're pumping gas in the hot sun. And it's just, now I remember thinking that, like, what's wrong with me? And I'm standing up on the rim of a pond to get better elevation, looking straight toward my deer stand at the far end of the field. It's one early fall, and this thing just comes walking out. And then I thought, well, I'm a 13-year-old kid. I had a single shot 20 gauge shotgun with quail load in it. And I'm going to have to, run some guy off my grandfather's property. And my second thought was, why is he dressed in all brown gloves, brown boots? And literally it just looked like a perfect toboggan where there was skin right here. There's darker skin, the skin right here. But there was hair all around that skin. And I'm like, why is the guy dressed like this? It was still under the shade. And I watched for about 45 seconds, and this, what I figured out to be a creature, walks across the field. The grass down at that end was very low because we just had things bulldozed off at that end. And about 3 or 4 steps into the field, it steps out of the shade into the sun, and it's directly following the fence row. But it tilts kind of tilts its body, but it keeps walking the same way. So it's like it's looking at me, but its shoulders are kind of turned, but it's walking straight down the field. Straight down that fence row, which is about 80 yards across. The fence row was. And anyhow, at the moment it looked at me, I remember the words just came to me. It's just like, I won't say it could have just been my own fear, but it was like the words, don't mess with me and I won't mess with you, mess with me and you'll regret it. Just boom. And I'm like, and I'm standing there with a 45-degree angle, shotgun right here, and I'm like, don't worry, I'm not messing with you. I don't even know if I was breathing. And I watched it walk all the way across, watched the sun kind of shine on its hair. Really, the first thing that made me think this isn't a person wasn't the appearance as much as it was the gait, the way it walked, which was with bent knees. It never locked its legs. It almost scooted. It's almost like it was skating or something. It's kind of weird. It really never locked its legs out like a person. And its back had an arch. This one you could see a neck, but it was like the back arch started from really low between the shoulders, maybe a vertebrae or two lower than a person. And I just knew it was leaned forward a lot. And its arms seemed really long, but it was kind of leaned forward too. So it's hard to tell, swinging its arms a lot. And it looked at me, I felt that. And then it looked away and just kept walking. And when it got out of sight, I just ran home, told my grandparents, and actually they seemed like they believed me. So I think they probably knew there was, we heard wood knocks and stuff my whole life. But we just didn't know what it was back then, And so anyhow, that was the first encounter. And it's like a library, and there's no place to put the book. There's no code for it. And so you're just trying to process it. And you tell a few friends, and after a few, you're nuts and spreading it all over the school. You're like, I'm not talking about this again. So I did what most people do. And that's one reason we do this is because there are a lot of people that have PTSD or, suffer from having these encounters. My second encounter was far more dramatic. And all this was in my PB, my my pre-Brenda era. And so, but anyhow, on my second encounter, we were smallmouth bass fishing, East Fork of the Stones River. All of it happened in Lascassas, Tennessee. And man, I don't mind, everything's changed there so much. I don't mind giving out, locations or whatever. That stuff don't bother me. Most people aren't going to get off their couch anyhow. I mean, that's just the truth. And the ones that do, things have changed a lot, but we find these almost everywhere we go. As long as the area meets certain criteria, and we feel in our gut we're supposed to be there. That's the two things we really go by. It has to have a lot of water. We love water. And but the second encounter is the real driving force with why we do this, and that is we're being a friend. I was 16. He was 29, I think, 28, 29. We're spending the night on the riverbank, East Fork of the Stones River, Lascassas, right down from Guy James Bridge. And at about 9 o'clock at night, my buddy looks at me and he says, "Man, it sure has gotten quiet." And this guy's a rugged outdoorsman. And by the way, that's something we don't systematically see. Sometimes it gets very quiet. Sometimes our best pictures come from when all of nature sounds are going. But he said that, and the second he said that, and this one would have probably put me out of commission mentally for a long time had I been able to process it. But I think my brain just kind of put a defensive mechanism up. But the second he said that, within 5 seconds, something hits the water. And to explain how hard it hit the water, it literally sounded like an army tank was dropped from the sky into the water. I mean, there's no way to explain. So we go from dead still quiet, almost on cue, this thing hits the water. We're both land on our feet and we're just shaking. I mean, we don't even get up. We're just like land on our feet because we're sitting down by a campfire, which is about 5 or 10 feet from the water. And we land on our feet. We're just trembling and shaking. And of course, he said, "What the heck was that?" And he's got one old flashlight. And it's in our book, The Bigfoot Finders. I say it looks like two fireflies rubbing their butts together. It's so weak, but it's one of those old D-battery flashlights, And we go down through there and we're looking out and look out in the water, which is probably about 7 feet deep. And all we see is these two massive red eyes. They're a good 5-6 inches apart. I mean, they're so big, it's ridiculous. And they're almost glowing. I mean, they're so red. And my buddy, he's in front of me. He's braver than I am. I'm dumber than he is because I'm not processing this. And I know cows come down there to get water. The only thing I could think of was a cow fell in the water. I mean, you don't try to make this. Even though I'd seen the Sasquatch 3 years earlier, there was no connection between these two events whatsoever. This one's in the water. It's early April. The water's cold. So there's just no connection. This could possibly be a Bigfoot. And anyhow, he's leaned down over the water. It's no more than 25 feet out there. I mean, this thing is close, but his flashlight sucks. And so the thing is looking at us, and we start to kind of get the silhouette of the head, and he's putting that light out there, and I'm looking over his shoulder 3 or 4 feet back, and he's shaking, and he starts to say, "It's a monster, it's a monster, it's a monster." And I'm like, his name was Benny, God rest his soul, great guy. But I said, it can't be a monster. And I just kept saying, every time he said it's a monster, I said, it can't be a monster. And the thing tilts its head, and its head is so ginormous. It's not like the first one that I saw. But we're close. We're so close. But its head is so massive, and we're just seeing from maybe the lip up, and these two massive red eyes, and this thing tilts its head to the side like it's just kind of like we would if we were thinking about something, like we're examining something. Then it tilted its head the other way, and we watched it for a good 3 or 4 minutes. And that's, I know these things seem like they take forever, but the whole event lasted 3 or 4 minutes. We watched it there probably 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, and then it pushes out toward the center of the river, which isn't very far. It doesn't go all the way out there. And then it goes in this super fast zigzag pattern downstream, but it never takes its eyes off us. Just like that first one, when it turned its head, but it was walking with this thing, never took its eyes off us, but it's zigzagging, and it's outpacing the current probably 4-to-1. It's just, and it stops right in front of our fire. No more. And he's leaning out, looking at this thing. It does the head tilt thing again as we look at it. It's like it's trying to figure us out. Now, remember, it jumped in the water the moment he said it was quiet. And so that's when it hit the water. And so I hand him the shotgun. I'm holding the light, and I'm just shaking. The light's not doing much good anyhow. I was shaking. It's probably helping the light work is one of those. But anyhow, I hold the light. He pulls the shotgun up to his shoulder, and this massive head, the second the shotgun gets to his shoulder, it goes boom, 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 and vanishes. And it's gone. And, there was a point where we could make out a brow ridge and maybe a nose, but we weren't, you could definitely see the silhouette of the head, these massive red eyes. And, you could see some of the facial features. We were super close, but it was dark, and, it's gone. And we sat there. It's a mic drop moment. We just sat there, boom. Nobody says anything for 5 or 10 minutes. And then he says, it's got to come up for air. And, we had people comment before, you're lying. It had to come up. Well, if it did, it went 200 yards downstream and cut a corner. We never saw it. It was dark, but we never heard it come up for air. It may have, but we never saw it. So we're sitting there. And after about 10 more minutes, he says, we're going to take shifts tonight and watch out because this thing could come up and kill us. And if he would have said Bigfoot, I would have freaked out. But he always kept saying monster, and I'm thinking like a water monster, like this. It was just an old mill pond lake. It's not big enough for the Loch Ness monster. What are you talking about? So he never said anything but monster. And so the next morning we wake up, and I told Benny, I'm not staying up. I said a cow drowned, something happened. I don't know what just happened, but I'm going to go to sleep. So I went to sleep. The next morning, he'd been up all night. He's sitting there with his shotgun in front of the fire. And the last words we ever said about it, he looks at me and he says, it never came up for air. And we were going to stay the whole weekend. We packed the boat up. We went back up to the river and went home. Didn't say another word about it. Our relationship was pretty distraught from that moment. We didn't talk much. He moved off within about 3 months. And, and I don't make the connection. All I know about for sure was the ride home and that he had PTSD from this event because he saw it better than I did. He was out front. I was looking over his shoulder. He was willing to accept what he saw. I wasn't at the time until later on. And I'm looking at videos and I'm hearing people tell about the big red eyes and different things. And I'm thinking that's what we saw that night. But Danny took his life within 2 years of that event, took his own life. And so I don't know what a contributing factor that was because we lost touch, but I know it messed with him mentally. And so Brenda and I just believe the world deserves to know the truth. So we went out looking for these things.
You have to remember back in these days when you saw the big feet both times,
Yeah.
there was no internet, so
Right.
there was no correlation that he could process and look on the internet and say, oh, that's what it was. It's just a young boy's.
Yeah. So fast forward years later, first of all, my ex-wife hated me even talking about this sort of thing. I have the best wife in the world. I'm sorry, guys. Brenda's amazing, but we're literally best friends. But having said that, I'm listening to stories, Tim Kuhnbo Baker and some different people, and they talk about seeing these things in the water, and I'm like, the water. And he's talking about one swimming 400 yards, 300 or 400 yards in the Mississippi River underwater. And I'm like, and then people are talking about these massive red eyes that almost self-illuminate. And I'm like, we did see a monster that night. Benny was right. No wonder it freaked him out. I was just in denial. I mean, I was literally in denial. And so then you get super curious, and that's what we did. And curiosity is, what got us here. And Brenda and I started talking, and I'd been through a divorce, and we just fell for each other. I told her about my experiences because I didn't want that to be a roadblock. And I said, I'm interested in going out and seeing if maybe we can get another picture. She's like, yeah, let's do it. And so we went out, and we literally thought we'd never get pictures. We thought we'd probably maybe see one in the rest of our life. And I'll say this, John, and this is the weird part, because I have turned off podcasts. I have turned off YouTube videos. I've turned off everything in the previous years when somebody's saying, I saw this and I saw this and I got this. I'm like, sure you did. Yeah. Yeah, I bet you did. I bet you say. And that's really a turnoff to me, and it always was. At the same time, we can't deny our own experiences. We're not making this stuff up. We got pictures to prove a lot of it, and we have probably seen more Bigfoot than just about anybody alive. I mean, we see these. There is a connection of some kind because they're not afraid to show. Now we don't get very many Patterson Gimlin moments. Don't get me wrong. They'll usually peek out from behind a tree. Most of the time, our best pictures come from the ones we don't see, and we find in the pictures later. Once you see them, it's hard to photograph them. But we've seen quite a few, seen some other cryptids, and the real journey starts there. But that's how we got our launch, right there. And then Brenda entered into the picture, and it got fun. So
Entered into the picture from Arizona. We worked together at the same company, and so I would talk to him all the time, and that's when he told me his stories, and we fell in love. And here I am out in Tennessee, just to be with this man and enjoy going out and exploring, and like you said, looking at butterflies and waterfalls and just flowers, everything, and just happened to take a couple pictures of Bigfoot along the way. That's okay. It's fun.
Who knew that Bigfoot was a matchmaker?
That's right. That's right.
Going to have his own dating show here soon.
Yeah.
So getting back to your encounters, let's start with the water one. You said the eyes were red. Do you feel like they were self-illuminating, or do you feel like that was eye shine?
I do feel like they were self-illuminating to a point, just because his light was so weak, but we couldn't see them unless we put the light on them. But they were too bright to be just a reflection of his weak light, if that makes sense. I mean, they were like so red, they almost looked like a cartel light.
Yeah, you hear that, and I don't know what to make of that, because the rational scientific mind of mine, if you have a light source in your eyes, you're not going to be able to see anything. So I don't know what that is. It's weird.
Yeah. Well, we can back up to when we started the journey and got the first photos. I was totally rational and scientific. We didn't even think we believed in Dog Man. We didn't know. We certainly thought Bigfoot was probably a Gigantopithecus running around there, some hominoid, relic hominoid. We had no idea. There's nothing these creatures do that makes sense. Nothing. And so I don't try to, the more I try to, and you're right. I mean, that's the way we approach it, because we're not crazy loonies. We're successful at what we do. We're blessed. We really don't have to do this. We'd probably be better off financially if we spent time doing other things than just this on weekends. But, the truth is, I looked at this as just a creature, even though I had those two experiences, even though there was the kind of blurriness in the one, I never put all that together. And I tell people this: photography is the highest form of research outside of having a dead body or a live specimen. And so the things that show up in our pictures give us a lot of insight into what they really are And none of those things make sense. And so that's why nowadays it doesn't matter if somebody tells me they see one in downtown Chicago. I'm not like, I'm not, I mean, obviously that would be weird, but they don't have to fit inside a box, is what I'm saying.
We have seen them or photographed them pretty close to where there's other people, is why he's saying that, we could see them in city limits and it wouldn't be a surprise.
Yep.
And we are not tech people. We don't know anything about AI. My husband had to go to iPad training school to learn a new program that our work was doing because he just is not a computer man. And, I'm far from it too. I can turn on the computer. I can, do Excel and Word, but this AI stuff, I have no idea how to even manipulate anything. And we have seen Bigfoot morph into vines.
We've got photographs. We've got successions of photographs that they morph into the vines behind them. A lot of people can't fit it into their box. We don't just have opinions. We have at least what we call proof. There's always going to be somebody, well, that's this, that's that. It's never good enough for some people. I mean, they could literally Sasquatch could run out of the woods, throw him over his shoulder and run off and then have some explanation for it. But we weren't looking for this. We wanted this to be a natural creature. We wanted it to be a rare, giant humanoid or hominoid type, Gigantopithecus, something. We didn't want this other stuff. This other stuff will really wreck your worldview. And we weren't looking for it, and we didn't ask for any of it to show up in our photos. But when we get pictures of Bigfoot, almost always there are other creatures around. And that's the part that really started to let us know that, hey, this is not, it is 100%. So the argument that it's 100% natural is very valid because it is. They reproduce, they have a footprint, they have a smell, they have a scent, they make noise, they do everything a natural being can do, but yet they're also multidimensional. And we don't just have an opinion. We have one of our better photos. We call him Big Lips. We saw him in the southern middle part of Tennessee. I'm trying to think of the name of the place, but anyhow, we get a lot of ours are on wildlife preserves, WMAs, and wildlife management areas. And anyhow, we saw him from about 200 yards. I was looking through my phone, and I said, "Brenda, I'm looking at one." Well, we couldn't. By the time we got it, it was a zoom in. By the time we got it, she couldn't see it. We drive down the hill to where it was. It's a power line where it runs through this WMA, and we just get out there. We take pictures. And later we've got a picture of this Sasquatch, and we've got this perfect doorway over to we've had a lot of people examine it. Straight lines like that just don't appear in nature, but it's a very, very profound doorway that is there. And so many, many times when we get these cryptids, we'll see strange stuff like that, if that makes sense, in the background or other creatures or whatever. But yeah, that's so we opened up a rabbit hole of Pandora's box. We weren't. Brenda was kind of looking for. I was like, I'm kind of rational myself. I'm like, this doesn't fit in the box. Get rid of it. But
you see, I moved to Arizona specifically to see aliens and UFOs, and I spent 27 years not going out and looking in the sky every night, but casually. They've got to be out there. When am I going to see one? Never saw one. So when he tells me about Bigfoot, my mind is wide open. Let's go. I want to see something strange and unusual. And so this was just a doorway into that. And it was just perfect. And I came out here to Tennessee. And the very first day the very first week I was out here, we photographed the pictures that are on this book. And it was just, and we didn't see these pictures. We didn't realize that we had this picture until 2 weeks later. Was it 2 weeks later? About 2 weeks later, when he was on the airplane on the way back from going to the iPad training for work.
I couldn't catch up to a simple iPad program that everybody else was getting on their Zoom meetings. I couldn't get it, so I said, "Hey, retrain me." They send me out there. I'm sitting on the plane in plane mode. looking through my Samsung Galaxy S8 in 2023. There was still one working. And that's how we got our first series of photos until we upgraded to our S23 Ultras, which have a very good camera on them for a cell phone.
Yeah, and we only use our cell phones because I'm not going to want to carry a big, bulky camera out in the woods hiking, because we usually just go out and go hiking and take pictures and zoom through them later on. I don't want to carry this big camera out there with me all sweaty and, plus cell phone is so much easier to be able to pull it out and use it discreetly.
Right, and you can switch from video to regular photos really quickly, unlike on some cameras. So, I believe I'm like you. We can't put it into one box because there's too many different encounters to say, yes, it's just physical. Yes, it's interdimensional. It's got to go in a lot of different boxes. And I just think, don't put it in a box. We don't have to put it in a box.
Sure.
But you were talking about the one not coming up for air.
Yeah.
And I've heard other encounters like that, not on my show. I listen to a lot of podcasts, but I have heard other encounters like that where they go underwater and these people watch for, several minutes or even hours, and the thing never comes up. So that's not unheard of.
And not only that, the other side to that, the supernatural side to that, which I really didn't get until much later, is it was so quiet. This creature, its head probably weighed 75 pounds. It was massive. We didn't see the rest of its body, but it had to be like, there's no telling how much it weighed. It was huge. But we didn't hear it come up. It was dead quiet, and we did not hear it come up. We park on the riverbank, and it's daylight, and the sun sets, and we never hear it. We don't hear anything, not a twig break. And then, kaboom, so.
Yeah. And, like you said, if you're not hearing anything approaching the water or anything like that, did it get dropped off by a UFO?
We do believe there's a connection. Brenda leans more toward the UFOs as being, and I believe they could be both. They could be from other planets, but I certainly believe in the fallen angel technology, Genesis 6, the Nephilim, and the the technology that they exchange for worship. And I believe a lot of this stuff and the DNA manipulation that they possess. That's personally where I think the origin is. But then that would also explain why you can't put it into a box, But we've seen so much strange stuff, and we don't necessarily just open up to that. But it is hard just to talk about Bigfoot. We've seen multiple Sasquatch together. Most of the best pictures come when we don't even see them. We've had some scares out there, but not what most people would think. The biggest one when we first got started, it was probably our second or third trip out. And we're at the Hatchie River, and this one we didn't see. We got a really good photograph. It was a dogman and a dogman cub. So usually 95% of our good dogman pictures, it will always be a female with a pup somewhere near, or it's almost always. But we're walking out around this area that just got dry enough to walk on, because the water on the west end of Tennessee, the rivers are totally different than the east end. So in the winter, the water just gets up and it covers acres and acres and acres, and then it recedes, and you get to kind of the summer pool where the river's normal. And we were walking around one of those rivers, hoping we didn't step on a cottonmouth. And man, we hear a snort, and I'm telling you, that snort was like a freaking rhinoceros. It's just like so loud. There's no animal. And Brenda did if we would have had an official Olympic team there measuring the high jump or something, she makes a leap she's not capable of, screams, and she puts it.
Do I have to?
No, well, anyhow, things that happen when you get scared, and but we just start taking pictures. We're shaking. We walk maybe another 50 feet. We're like, forget it. We're turning around, And we came back and, we had the photo. We've had them throw acorns and rocks at us. We had a juvenile down in Huntsville, Alabama. Some people were with us on a little trip, and we got a photo that's in the book of a juvie that's throwing acorns at us. Just, we didn't see it do it. We just knew the acorns, so we just click, and find it in the pictures. And, so many times these things surprise us. They surprise us when we do find them. And then sometimes we know they're around us and we don't see anything. It's crazy. But there are ways that we've learned to kind of reduce the amount of photos we take and take them at the right time and get some pretty good pictures when we're around them. But
they don't necessarily always smell. They don't necessarily always go quiet. It's just, those are telltale signs that there is something around and you better start taking pictures. But and the smell is just horrendous. I mean, it's just wet gym socks, decaying meat, just such a stench that you can't possess.
And that's a beautiful point, because sometimes when it goes dead quiet, we do take pictures when we smell them. And Brenda's got a great nose for them. We take pictures, but at the same time, sometimes there's no scent, and sometimes there's the sounds of nature going, and we get our best photos. And so it just says, as a matter of fact, we call ourselves the Bigfoot Finders sometimes, because we do everything wrong. We don't do tree knocks. We don't go out in the woods at night. We're not into the reality TV shows. People ask us, what do you think about this or that? I don't know. You tell me. I mean, we don't beat on trees. We do everything wrong. We don't have infrared. We don't go to hot spots. We love places with a lot of water, over 3,000 or 4,000 acres. It doesn't have to be, but we love them to be that big. We love them to have a lot of water. And if we fill in most of our visual sightings, John, I'd say 90% of our visuals, which we only see about 1 out of every 20 or 30 Sasquatch we photograph before the photo. So, but 90% of our visuals come when we are maybe driving down a road or walking down a trail, and we just know in our gut we're supposed to go this way or that way. Sometimes many of mine come when ironically enough, if I have a visual or a really good photo, I'd say at least 60, 70% of the time, because I travel with my job. I go to different houses all across the part of 4 or 5 different states here in Western Tennessee. I sell walk-in tubs to older folks that need help. And so many times I'll just have to use the bathroom, and I'll pull over. I always look for, just an area beside a bridge. And that's where, and we'll be talking, and I'm like, holy crap, this can't be, I'm almost like it can't be happening again. We had one at Reelfoot Lake, this honest to goodness, man. I mean, I didn't get a good picture of it, but I'm taking a break and I'm talking to Brenda on the phone, and this is one of the coolest visuals I've ever had, but it sounds too strange, but and something is it's not just beating, it's not just wood knocks. There's wood knocks, but something is just cracking limbs and trees and shaking stuff over there. And I tell Brenda, I said, I just really can't believe this is happening again. Now, this is not Reelfoot Lake. There's about 20 different real pools around Reelfoot Lake. It's Reelfoot Pool number 1, 2, 3, 4. And they're all about 50, 75 acres, and they'll all have a little wildlife management. Some of them have a little wildlife management area around them. This is one of those pools. And I said, this just can't be happening. I got a fishing rod in one hand, and, I'm wetting a line and talking to her on lunch, and all this noise is going on. I'm like, this is just strange. I take some pictures, didn't find anything in the pictures, but looking in the shade, and out comes a juvenile Sasquatch, no more than 4.5 feet tall. It isn't like it walked out. It's like it went straight out. It's looking straight at me. I'm like, this just can't be happening. And it goes just like that. And then it receded back. It's almost like it faded into the background. And I'm like, they were playing in rocks that day too. It's probably the only time we've ever heard of just beating on rocks. But there was a lot going on over there, but that's all we saw. That was probably my last visual. And she had a visual about 4 weeks ago, and we got some of our best pictures. We did a really cool video of the one she saw too. So
I was just looking up Reelfoot Lake because it sounded really familiar. And I've driven by there. I was like, I know I've heard that before, but I couldn't remember. But yeah, I've driven by that before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So what part of the country are you in, man? Just out of curiosity.
I'm originally from Ohio. I live in Indiana, but
Okay.
I have family not far from you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, good deal. Good deal. We
Yeah.
love it. So.
I'm originally from Michigan.
You're
I'm,
from
ori- I'm from Michigan, and I moved to Arizona when I was 22, and just thought I was going to live in Arizona the rest of my life looking for UFOs. And this Tennessee accent got me.
So, what part of Michigan were you in?
Kalamazoo.
Okay. Okay. Did you ever run into Dog Man up there?
I never paid any attention. We lived on a small private lake, so there might have been something around. I just never really had any thoughts about Dogman or Bigfoot back when I was young. I just wanted to go out ride my mini bike. That's all I cared about.
Well, the lake up there too. That has a lot of UFO activity. So
And I didn't see it there either. It wasn't until I moved here to Tennessee that we actually saw some. There was just a string of lights in the air, and they tried to say that it was satellite. Is that what it was?
Starlink.
Yes, exactly. There's no way.
Uh,
There's no way. These were perfectly in line. It was something. Um, I don't think there was anything that was starline. It was UFOs and yes, like
yeah, we actually, it's crazy enough because there is a connection. We believe, but we got a picture on the Buffalo River. We kayak a lot too. And so we were kayaking down the Buffalo. Brenda gets a picture and she's taking a picture of a beautiful bluff. I mean, it's just a beautiful rock outcropping. We get home and there's an inverted UFO. There's a perfect outline of an inverted, more of a very traditional, like 1970s style UFO, very straight lines with a very blue, uh, I guess a blue outline around, but it's clear. It wasn't there, but it shows up in her picture. And we've got that in our new book as well, Young Bigfoot. It's on our website too. So that's just the kind of stuff we run into, man. Sometimes it trips us out too. Sometimes we've had 2 or 3 photos that we had to delete off our phones because they were just too weird. And that's the truth. One, I'm looking at it, and if we tell people the stuff we really saw, we've just scratched the surface. If we really shared, you would sure think we're nuts. Listen, we don't have anything to gain. I'd be better off if Bigfoot was Gigantopithecus if we were just talking, having that conversation and just talking about it being a natural creature. More people would listen, and we could go out and beat on some trees and do some stuff at night and get some people's attention and have better, more people watching. But we're just after the truth.
Right. And that always kills me, that people say, well, these people are just coming on your show because, they want attention. No, because people that come on my show are risking ridicule.
Man,
You know.
you haven't seen the hate we get, bro. I mean, you probably get it too. We get some of it. I mean, it's only about 3 to 5%. And we've got people that are like, wow, these are some of the best pictures we've ever seen. We've got pictures, we've got people say, you see Bigfoot in a bowl of spaghetti. I mean, and honestly, man, I mean, we're blessed. We do well. We don't need this. We really don't. We're doing this because we feel like it's a calling and because we feel like the world deserves to know the truth. We're not doing this. We don't make enough on books to justify what we've spent putting them out there. We don't. I mean, we do some, but that's not why we do this. The only reason we put it in book forms, we get tired of saying the same thing over and over and answering the same questions over and over. But anyhow,
when he told me that we wanted to go Bigfoot finding, I'm thinking Harry and the Hendersons Bigfoot. That's the only thing my mind could possess. Just okay, let's go see Harry and the Hendersons. And they are so diverse, just like humans are. There's so many different sizes and shapes and colors. It's just amazing. We had one that was all white, and he's our
Whiteface, he's in.
no, not whiteface grandpa.
Oh, yeah.
Which is not in. I don't think he's in any book.
Yeah.
But he was all white, and just beautiful looking. And he just looked like he was an older Bigfoot. And it's crazy. We've got juveniles and females. I mean, you can definitely tell that they are female.
Mhm.
The Tishomingo County Bigfoot that's in, gosh, it's not in the book.
She's not in it.
No, but she's on TikTok.
Yeah, she's got obvious for us. You know, I mean, she is obviously a female.
That's one that he likes to show to a lot of people. We go to a restaurant or go anywhere, and he's like, let me show you a picture of what we do. And he shows them pictures of Bigfoot from his phone. It's so cute.
And I say 95% of the people I show just random folks on the street. I'll say, "What's this? What does this look like to you?" I say, "Is that a gorilla? Is that, you know?" But they obviously see it. You know, I mean, it's stuff you just and of course the ones we find, we zoom through, we blow them up. Sometimes the only thing we will do is we can lighten the contrast because they're usually hidden in the dark, you know, kind of the shaded areas. So we'll lighten the contrast, but that's all we do to these photos.
So we know how to do.
That's a better point.
We were at a state park a couple months ago, and we were done hiking, and we went to the office, and we were talking to the lady that was working in the office and showed her some of our pictures, and she's like, she looks around, she says, I don't know if I'm supposed to be telling you this, but we got an email saying that we're supposed to report any unusual activity. And we're like, oh, really? So we definitely paid attention to those pictures, and I don't know if, I can't remember if we found anything or.
No, that wasn't a good. That was a real one too. But yeah, she. In other words, we're. Oh, yeah. Sorry, lady, if you lost your job. Anyhow, yeah, we're showing her the pictures, and she's like, "We're supposed to report unusual activity, people with sightings." She just said something like that. She didn't, you know, and she didn't really know if she believed in it, but that came straight down from the top at a state park here in Tennessee. So, you know, the government knows, man. I know people that have done kind of mid to high grade border security for the government. And they were just told they told me straight up, hey, the government said do not engage with any hominoid type creatures, you know. So we asked questions, they wouldn't give us answers. They just said, if it doesn't bother you, don't bother it. Don't ask another question. But you know, these things are out there.
One of these days, just like recently with UFOs, they will come out and tell the public, yes, all those years that we lied to you.
I mean, it took them a long time, but they finally started coming out. But I agree with you. I do think that they know. I'm sure that they know. And I think we touched on this a little bit. I don't know if we did it in the pre-interview or during the interview, but one of the reasons that I can't give up on the Nephilim theory is because of that cover up. Because if the Nephilim theory is true, that proves part of the Bible. That takes away power from the government. So they have a reason. So
sure, absolutely. Just a tiny 1 minute deep dive into that is, of course, Genesis chapter 6 talks about the Nephilim before Noah's flood and after Noah's flood as well. But with the Dead Sea, and I'm sure you know this, John, but just for the people that maybe haven't, just a really quick synopsis. But with the Dead Sea Scrolls, when they were found, I think it was in the 1950s, but they were found the oldest known manuscripts of the Torah, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. There were also other books. And some of those books are referenced in the Bible, but not in our current canonized Bible. And those were the Book of Jubilees, the Book of Jasher, of course, the books of Enoch, first, second, and third. And so many of those, along with the Book of Giants, was found with the Dead Sea Scrolls. And the Book of Giants talks specifically about the DNA manipulation with animals from these Nephilim and from the fallen angels, actually the ones that did the DNA manipulation. But another tricky little thing there when we talk about this is Genesis 6 at least gives an insinuation, because Genesis 6, where the Noah's flood happens, is more of it's about cleaning up the DNA because the Nephilim have infiltrated the human planet. but it also makes a reference to the animals also being evil, or I can't remember the exact word there, but the word comes from a Hebrew word that means not of pure bloodline or descent. So the Nephilim, the fallen angels were manipulating the DNA on planet Earth, trying to destroy God's entire creation. Having said that, in our opinion, because of the things we catch in our photos, that's where these creatures come from.
Right. I agree with you. I can't say that I know because we don't know 100%. But, with all the stories you hear, plus I'm a Christian, I know Genesis 6 exists.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who, don't worry about that part. Like, if it wasn't important, I don't think it would be in there.
Sure.
But that kind of leads to the next part of this is let's talk a little bit about Dog Man and the other chimera, I guess you'd want to call it.
Yeah.
The half man, half animal hybrids. Because honestly, Bigfoot could be one of these things. But I do believe Dog Man is.
Yeah. So first of all, Brenda had from the LBL, from Land Between the Legs, when we got the Bigfoot on the photo of our book, we also got a bunch. We've got a famous one. We blew him up to 8 feet tall. He's called Pat, just to show people the real size of a Bigfoot. We carry him around sometime and show him, and he's on one of our videos as well. But in that same series of photos, she gets what would have been one of the best dogman pictures ever taken. No kidding. But her phone sucked worse than my Samsung Galaxy S8. And so, if that's even imaginable. I mean, it was an incredible photo of a bipedal standing wolf-looking creature, kind of a reddish-looking, dog or wolf-looking creature. Yeah. And I'm like, man, you're messing our stuff up bad. Why'd you do this? And we're still finding other weird stuff in there too. But that's one thing that really, it was hard for us to wrap our brain around because we see Bigfoot at a higher rate. And that's not to say we go out every weekend and see one. We'll see 3 or 4 a year, maybe 1 or 2 really good visuals, and some that are verified by the photos afterward when we zoom in, and it was. But with Dog Man, we don't see as many, but we photograph almost an identical amount of Bigfoot and Dog Man, almost identical. So, and many times together, which I know it messes people's world up when I say that together. Even the people, if you're just saying this is just a natural creature, most people think these things fight. They may sometimes, but we've got pictures that show otherwise. And that picture is kind of a snapshot of what's going on at the moment. And we can learn a lot from looking through those. And we find a lot of dog men. We've seen probably 5 now total together over the last 2.5 years. I've never seen one of those until we got out, and but we've just seen a bipedal one that peeked out from behind a tree, but we've seen about a 4.5 foot tall one on all fours, and that one scared us. And Brenda was getting out of the car, and I'm like, "Hey, get back in the car," because we were it was a good area. It's a place we get a lot of pictures. And anyhow, that one kind of shook me a little bit, and it took a while to go back to that area. And but yeah, we see dogmen. They're real. People don't. When I first started hearing about the beast of the LBL, I was like, man, it's crazy. It's a Bigfoot. Somebody's misidentifying it. I understand that train of thought because I'm rational too. It's just the truth is stranger than fiction in this case. So.
And I've seen fairies. I was out in this little field looking at these flowers because I'm a big flower person, and all of a sudden there's just something takes off, multiple glowing, about the size of between a hummingbird and a dragonfly, but it was just like glowing, and it takes off from these flowers and flies over, about 20, 30 feet away from me. And I'm like, And it wasn't just one, it was like multiple in the same area. And I'm like, I turned to him, I said, honey, I just saw a fairy. And he's like, yep, I believe you. I said, he said, the reaction on my face was just so in awe that there's no way it could have been anything else. I didn't get a very good glimpse at it, but it was like glowing. And like I said, it was about between a butterfly, a hummingbird, and a dragonfly size. And it just, you see it just flying off. And that blew me away.
We just, literally, I think there's a spiritual aspect to this stuff because when you get, I mean, I've had so many people say you guys are marked or whatever because we do have, and like I told you earlier, I almost apologize for, because I know on the other end, I know folks are like, I'm sure, and, I've got a pet Loch Ness monster in my backyard swimming pool, I mean, but this stuff is real. Although we do in a sense go looking for it, we weren't expecting anything like that. We weren't expecting Dog Man. We were expecting one Bigfoot in a 5 to 10 year period. That was our goal. And, instead we find so much. And one thing I will throw out there, John, about Bigfoot, Dog Man, or whatever is where we get most of our good pictures, because most of our good pictures, we're not, I'm trying to think of the dude's name up in Canada, Todd Standing. We don't go, 10, 20 miles into the woods or 50 miles into the woods. Most of our good photos come from the end of a gravel road where people go and maybe turn around on a wildlife management area or a national park or something where people don't go often, or maybe a trail that's used, but we look for those long lines of view with turns in it. But it's usually the places I call where two worlds collide, because we don't go super deep into the woods. We know better. But these things are super curious of human beings. And so most people that say, I'm sure you see them, well, why come I've never seen one? If they've been in the woods and they'll say, why come I've never seen one? I tell them this: I don't know why you've never seen one, but I can guarantee you one has seen you.
Right.
Because these creatures are super curious of humans. We are their entertainment. They love the place. We're kind of at the end of their territory, the beginning of ours. Most of our good photos are from within 200, 300 yards of our car, easy. We don't go, we do go super deep into the woods, but we don't always get our best pictures there, if that makes sense. So that's another thing that really rocked us is we've gotten pictures that we show and people are really impressed by from the interstate. I know that's bizarre, but and it's not, we don't just stop anywhere, but it's a place we felt drawn to 4 or 5 times when we went by, and we're just like, we're going to stop. We pull over the side of the road, take, no, actually, no, it's even crazier. We take the pictures going down the interstate. We slow down to 60, and we got good phone cameras, and we zoom through, and we got some really good pictures that way. And so this stuff is just bizarre, man.
Right. I think there's a statistic out there I know it's over 85% of all encounters are roadside.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, they're drawn to human beings are their entertainment. They love just looking from 50, 100 yards, something like that. That's kind of the key target area. And we look for downed trees. We'll photograph those. We got a really good photo last year in Mississippi of one peeking out of a downed tree. We got another one we call flat face, and you can see the pupil in his right eye. And he looks, most people say that one looks like E.T. But we got him here real close because when trees are falling over, and we just zoom through those pictures, and they love hanging out. They love just peeking out at you, and that's where we get a lot of our pictures. So,
yeah, absolutely. Might have to refer, if I've never done a deep dive on the fairies or the fae folk, whatever you want to call them. But I may refer you to my good friend Matthew Orton over at Drunken Cryptids. He does a lot with, he talks about the fairy or the fae folk a lot. And he's had a couple episodes with the fairies. So I may refer you over to him. I give him a lot of crap on my show, but that's a good friend too.
We sat down. There's a dude we sat down with at the Bigfoot conference that we showed. We've got a bunch of pictures of little people. They're the third most common thing we photograph.
What?
No, the guy that was pretty. Johnny was yeah, he was blown away by our little people photos too. So we get a lot of them. We get things that just don't make sense, So anyhow, it's all out there. I can't remember if it's regular spaghetti or Prego spaghetti sauce, the old commercial. It's in there.
Yeah, the little people. I get some reports of those too. I have an episode with Rod from Lodge Tales podcast. I do a lot of promoting of my friends, but we had an entire episode about the little people. So the ones that you've seen now, are they small Bigfoot? Are they little people?
So
Little people.
yeah, they look much more like people. Now we photographed some Sasquatch that look very human, as opposed. But just for clarity, we've never seen them, but we find them when we zoom through in our photos. Many times, almost always, if we get weird stuff like that, there's a Bigfoot around too. So we don't just go out. Very seldom do you just go out and get a picture of a little person. If you get a good picture of a Bigfoot, that's also a sign to look at the series of photos from that time frame where you were standing, where you were, and see what else was out there. And that's when we'll get our little people. A lot of the time is in those same series of photos. But yeah, we've never seen them. We've got them, I guess, we've got some crazy stuff, dude. We've got some stuff you can't wrap your brain around, but just the little people, I would say we've got some that are probably up to a foot tall or so, and some that are smaller, but it's a zoom in. It's hard to tell, but, just crazy stuff, but most all of them will show up around Sasquatch. There's just this commonality that when you get one thing, you go through 200 photos and there not be anything, then you find a good Bigfoot or Dog Man, and you got some weird stuff in the surrounding photos.
So you have any plans for any other books?
Yes and no. Sometimes, I mean, I'm just being honest, bro. Sometimes we wonder if it's even, we're 50, I'm 56, Brenda's 54. Sometimes we wonder, is this even worth I don't mean worth the trouble and time. We would keep doing it. We would keep hanging out in nature. We would keep taking pictures. We had considered 2 other books. One, just how to find and photograph your first Bigfoot. A lot of people would like they're easier to photograph than they are to see, but, anyhow, we considered another one as well, one specifically on Dog Man. But at the same time, man, we're at the age where I've got a medical thing coming up, and we're at the age where we are looking more into spending more time doing things like investing in real estate and things of that nature. So I don't know where we're going to go. Really, I don't know for sure where we're going to go from here. There are books inside of us that could be written, I promise you.
Yeah, I just heard you talking about where you have all these photos that haven't been released.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe there might be.
Yeah, and that's one reason we did Beyond Bigfoot, Cryptids, Portals, and Multidimensional Beings was to talk about some of the more weird stuff that we do encounter. By the way, too, I mean, the best, you'll see the pictures better on our TikTok and they show up in a book. But I mean, they're good in the books, don't get me wrong, but when you can zoom in, zoom out, and that's when you really, get to see it. But yeah, as crazy as that title sounds to that book, we've got stuff that was too weird for it. So anyhow.
Is Owl Man in that book?
Yeah, there is. So the first series, when we got the first Bigfoot, the first day ever at Land Between the Lakes, Brenda's over there 15 feet away from me getting Dog Man when she's not even supposed to. We got little people. We got 2 or 3 little people peeking out in those series of photos. One obviously female little person and a male little person. But we also get this crazy, he's in this book. It's an owl-looking cryptid. It only measures about 3.5 inches because based on the tree that it was in and how far it was from us. And it's got arms instead of wings kind of hanging down. And it's got a smaller one behind it, pointed ears on top.
thing scares the crap out of me. I told him to delete this post so many times, and I thought he did. And then all of a sudden it shows up again. And he said, "Honey, let's put this in the book." I'm like, "No," but I did. I published this book. This book I didn't publish myself, but that one I self-published, and it's far better.
Yeah, if anybody's ever considering getting one of these publishing companies that you can pay $4,000 for, save your
Don't
money
do
and
it.
do it yourself on Amazon. Just
KDP is so easy to use. You just, put up your book and download it, and they'll tell you it's easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, with this book, we actually we went and hired a publishing company, an editing company, and never again. That's why this book is my favorite, because I edited it all.
and we co-authored this.
And that's one thing, okay, because we would love to possibly write another book, but I've got arthritis really bad in my hands. And so when I'm typing, I can only type for like 5 minutes before I'm in so much pain. I can't do it anymore. And so it takes a lot out of me to even think about doing another book. But he wants to. I'm glad to do anything he wants to do, because this man is the world to me.
Well, RD and Brenda, I tell you what, it's been a pleasure having you on my show. Why don't you tell everybody once again where they can find you? And again, I will put the links in there, but people like to hear it from you too.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you, John. We've had a great time, man, and we've set on quite a few of these, and you're one of the best. I really mean that. And you can look back at the others. I don't say that to everybody, but I haven't said that to anybody before, man. But we truly appreciate it. Best way to get our stuff, or just to reach out to us. There's a link. You can just reach out to us where you can get our email and everything, get our newsletter or our books, or connect to our TikTok. It's all on www.thebigfootfinders.com. That's the best place. Everything's there. You can find us on TikTok. We do a little bit on YouTube. We're not social media people. I didn't even have Facebook before we started. I didn't have anything. I didn't have any social media before we started this. So this just isn't our thing. You're right. We're not looking for attention. We don't even care about it. But yeah, we do this for a purpose. So.
And that's it for tonight. Once again, I'd like to thank RD and Brenda for coming on. And to the listeners, I apologize for my audio. But if you have a paranormal encounter you'd like to share, you can email me at mythsandmullets@gmail.com. Talk to you later. Gotta go.
Shadow in the pines lurking in the dusky air. Bigfoot stomps through the woods like he don't care. Lights in the sky flash green then blue. Aliens descending with a secret or two. Whispers in the breeze, cold fingers down your spine. Ghosts in the graveyard, twisting through time. Eyes wide open in the dead of night. The myths and monsters giving one hell of a fright. Oh, Myths, Monsters, and Mullets podcast, spinning wild tales of a future and a past. Hosted by John Methencamp's fiery soul. He raspy growl. Swamp gas glowing as the coyotes howl. A UFO zipping just above the